Huge honour. I get it. Huge honour.
Hello everybody, I'm Huge Honor, and it's a huge honour to welcome you to episode 2 of the Crystal Hunt playthrough with the Audible Lore mod. I was thinking today we can start off by reading all the lore on the Baron's bounty. So enjoy.
White sands and crystal blue oceans of Santara. Oh, yeah. I've been feeling particularly nostalgic lately. Perhaps it's the turmoil that's beginning to foment on the mainland of Earth, has me wishing to beeline back to Santara's shores. Sometimes I'll perch on the rock to stare out at the ocean and remember it all. I recall my barony along the coast, with fields of wild lilac growing fresh under the Santari sun. So it seems like another life now. Of course, those days have long gone since the War of Sails took everything. With the subsequent consolidation of power beneath the Grand Doge, there was no barony left to speak of, or life for that matter. Career prospects are not great for enemies of the state. For that reason, I feel a great loyalty to Ramian and the Guild, who offered me a second chance. Growing the Guild from humble beginnings, gaining power, respect and influence against adversity, and in the face of the old guards. So much so that as a younger man, I always anticipated a day where the Guild would be so strong that we would cast anchor at Port Market, storm the palace and restore our nation. However, we don't dwell on such fantasies now. There was once a time that the fury in my heart would keep me warm on cold nights at sea, but those fires have long extinguished. Bitterness and hate are vile of poison, meant for your enemies, but you drink yourself. And with age comes realization that change is just a part of it. The mainland of Erden is a beehive of activity these days, since the recent discovery of those Dalgarian ruins in the mountains has ignited what folks are calling the crystal. The promise of Dalgarian crystals has drawn adventurers from all over Biak, including first the hill. In response, the Queen of Erden has been swift and brutal in her crackdown on such prospectors, trying her best to strangle the distribution of crystals, and by extension, sorcery. The existence of Eredian trolls shows that they're not above using sorcery, yet only when tempered, as the belief is that excessive sorcery will cause corruption of the soul and destruction against humanity. This has been the way of Erden for many centuries, though the historical origins of this is unknown to me. I have seen firsthand that there is truth to the claims of the world. One need not look further than Iraq. I suppose in a way Santara should be grateful for the prohibition, as the income from crystal brokering allows us to project influence far beyond our size or military capacity. Regardless, the lack of personal sorcery has never stifled Erden from becoming one of the largest military and cultural powerhouses in Vienna, not to mention the most cosmopolitan of all nations. But is it right to restrict a common man from using sorcery for their benefit, while sorcery is used to the benefit of the crown? In my opinion, there is a hypocrisy here, which is that rules do not apply to the powerful who wish to remain in power. Snow-topped highlands, swamp-filled lowlands, and sorcery-corrupted samurai everywhere in between. If you wish to visit another world, you don't need to travel to Aura, as Rakta would. The Reiki's aptitude for Crystal Shard is insatiable. The Shard is supreme, and magic is utilised in all aspects of society. Naturally, this makes Rakta a very lucrative candidate for Santari middle who deal in Shard peddling, but the crystal dependency makes them unreliable, twitchy. To travel there on business, one must keep a hand on their sword at all times. Of the several guild expeditions that travelled there, we always took the western coast. Not only is the most direct route from Santara, but blissfully the route is without any interference from Iradian patrols. The sun-kissed coastal views from Santara quickly turn to plains of ice as you enter the waters of Rakta. There's no direct ports to any Rakta cities, so expeditions by land is always necessary. Further inland, the country is dense with snow-topped mountains, though the country is wetter than you would expect. Much of the tracking is across swampy lowlands with strange flora and fungi, and one must always be vigilant for the bullywug in these terrains. Eventually, the expedition will take you upward as you ascend the mountains to find the Reiki cities. Those cities is probably too strong a word. Most Reiki peasants live in clusters of tiny bamboo shelters scattered across the mountainsides, with narrow trails connecting the dwellings. In contrast, the larger government military buildings are more imposing and elegant in architecture, often trimmed with gold and adorned with statues and tapestries that depict the glory years and rise of the Rakta Empire. To see how these sturdy people have somehow scratched out an existence in the mountains, inhabiting that sweet spot between frozen peak and swampy lowlands, it's quite an impressive sight, but famine is right. While little farmable soil the Reiki have is insufficient to support their population. The mountains of Rakta are ripe with gold, but gold cannot be eaten, and the Reiki reliance on the crystal has left them isolated for allies. Embargoed from Erden, Santara remains the only trading partner for food and resources. Indeed, there's few outside Santara who'd be willing to trade with the world. Well, they're so predisposed to crystal consumption, or they're a menacing sight. Their eyes completely blackened, with dark veins exposed beneath deathly pale skin tone. It's been many years since my last expedition to Rakta. The latest rumours is that the Emperor has crossed the mountain and begun making moves on the arable borderlands of Erden. Skirmishes have been reported along the northern borders where Rakta warriors have displaced the native wildfolk there, pushing them further south into Erden. Surely this is going to be another friction that will no doubt end in bloodshed. Of all the nations of Biet, the people of Madlu are the most recluse and isolationist. Unsurprising, given their trepidation to interact with foreigners who willingly consume the very crystal shard that devastate their civilization. Yet, a paradox exists, for despite the disdain and apprehension towards the crystal shard, the Madlu are not above using it for their technological advances. Indeed, their technological utilization is as ingenious as one will ever see. As a younger man, my journey north was once on. We hear tales of the Madine and their achievements, so the guild's incentive was to open a dialogue with these people in an attempt for crystal trade and knowledge. How naive we were. Although the Madine are spread out in sparse settlements across the northeastern islands, their capital metropolis is located on the coast of a larger continent. Our unwelcome arrival was met with immediate suspicion, and our ship was refused docking permissions, leaving us marooned on the freezing ocean. However, after several days of tense negotiations, Ramian managed to gain us temporary access to the city. Oh, and a magnificent city indeed. The cold on the northern continents are bitter beyond belief, yet the Madine carve out a miraculous existence here through their utilization of the crystal. Lantern-light roads cast a soft crystal light that emits heat. The crystal-studded outer walls of the city crackle with pulsating energy to keep savage beasts at bay. How do they harness this power? Where do they source their crystals? Our prying was quickly met with hostility. We learned that the ingestion of crystals for personal sorcery is the highest form of taboo, and Madine society will not touch it. It is the corruption they fear, no doubt. One need not look further than the Rakta to see the corrupting effects crystals have on humankind. Yet here the Madine harness the power freely in their technology. How strange! In what manner have the Madine made the crystal safe for utilitarian purposes? Where did they learn such knowledge? After 2 short days of sour looks and stonewalling, our party was expelled from the metropolis, no richer or wiser than we arrived. The frostbite that took my hand on the return journey will forever serve as a permanent reminder of the failed expedition and the secrets of Madeline remain undisclosed. It's impossible to paint the Caribbean with one broad stroke, as the nation is so diversified in tribes and culture that indeed it's more like a loose collective of mini-nations held together by a broad cultural semblance. My expeditions to the tribe of Cartier were always fraught with high adventure and excitement, as the desert lands themselves are so ancient and filled with mystery. Blazing hot days and freezing nights, golden sands as far as the eye can see, and each tribe with its own local warlord and story to tell. Iron and wood were always popular trades in the Cartier continent, exotic fruits and textiles being returned. I always enjoyed the bustle and commerce of Cartier markets, watching the locals barter their wares and ride their strange humped horses. But the real spectacle of these people was in their crossing of the deserts. Traversing the desert by foot or animal is impossible due to the presence of massive snake-like beasts that lurk beneath the sand. So the locals employ precarious-looking skimmers to sail across sand. A ship that sails on land. What a marvel. Cartier is experiencing a state of change, however. There are whispers of a powerful warlord who rose from relative obscurity to become a unifying force across the nation, persuading, coercing and subjugating the fragmented tribes into one consolidated power. The existence of this new unified Cartib under one banner has agitated Eridan's fragile trading positions with the Cartib tribes and sparked rumours of war. After all, a unified Cartib means an existential threat to Eridan's position as leading power. Who is this warlord, I wonder? Rumours are surely exaggerated. They say he's 10 feet tall, with the strength of 100 warriors, a devil among men. Unlikely, but they also say his rise to power was supported by a group of warlock known only as the Dust. Perhaps then there is some truth to his power. Now that I'm old, I feel my adventuring days are behind me. The regret I shall carry is that my adventures never took me to the eastern rainforests and the lands known as the Forgotten Continent. My grandfather was one such adventurous who travelled there in his youth, and his stories always stayed with me. He told harrowing tales of danger and disaster, where the majority of his crew succumbed to the terrors of the land itself. I wish to put to paper the story my grandfather told me to his people. History chronicles that the continent was once the homeland of the Madu nation centuries ago, lush with rainforests, teeming with life. At this time, the Medine were a forest-dwelling, powerful sorcerers who were able to shape the lands themselves. But, as the legend goes, over time, the lands themselves grew hostile to the islands. Corruption grew. The forests grew twisted and narrow, creatures began to form and ravel, until all that was left were mockeries of the fauna and flora that once existed there. The Medine reportedly blamed crystal sorcery as the origin of corruption, vowing never to utilise such sorcery again. Facing a creeping extinction in their homeland, the Medine were forced into migration. Receiving no amnesty from Cartia, the Medine were forced north into the frozen wastes. Their survival would have been surely impossible if not for the magnificent technology that allowed them to persevere with freezing cold and giant beasts that lurked in the snowstorms. But therein lies the irony. Their technological dependence on the crystal meant their very survival. As you travel from Santara to Eridan or back again, you must sail the strait between the arm of Eridan and the island of Greystone. Since all vessels must pass this way, Centauri captains utilise the strait to hang bodies of traitors, mutineers or thieves from the cliffs to serve as a grim warning to all sailors that pass through. However, these bodies of the damned are never removed, so over the decades, the strait has become a macabre display. Centauri locals attribute this to the curse that befalls Greystone. The island of Greystone has been on my mind lately as I contemplate my half-adventures. Unfinished business, so to speak. Long before my involvement with the Guild, I travelled to Greystone on behalf of the Grand Doge of Santara on a surveying mission. The island is overgrown, long deserted, but when the local explorers found crystal deposits on the island, they piqued the interest of the Doge to lay claim and secure that land. We arrived with a cohort of men for what we assumed to be nothing more than a few weeks of hacking through dense vegetation, sleeping rough. Imagine our surprise when at the heart of the island we discovered a stone stair descending into the black. The entrance was completely innocuous, concealed and overgrown with thorny vines to the point it was invisible, if not for chance and dumb luck leading us to notice it. We lit torches and descended deep below the surface. The ruins below were a series of damp passages and strange fungi and mosses growing in the cracks of the stone walls. The place had an ominous feel to it, and the deeper we delved, the walls became lined with what looked like embedded sarcophagi, which we dared not disturb. The passages led to a large chamber, what appeared to be a great hall. A long rotten table lay as the centerpiece to a room with crumbling pillars. We cast a torchlight to try and get a better understanding of our surroundings, when from the darkness shambled creatures as we had never seen before. Men, or remains of men, with leathered skin hanging in tatters, putrefied organs on display. Several of our soldiers immediately turned and fled in terror. Those of us who drew swords somehow mustered the courage to stand against these monstrosities, but were horrified to find these creatures seemingly immune to our blades. I witnessed firsthand these monsters incur severed limbs, yet pain was not registered, and the assault continued unperturbed. After several of my sailors were butchered by rusty blades, the ranks broke and we'd no option but to flee this tomb. The initial report to the Grand Doge was met with disbelief, but subsequent expeditions to the island were met with similar fates. Wave after wave of Centauri soldiers entered the tomb, never to return, with reports now saying the dead have ascended above ground in startling numbers to walk the island itself, making it impossible to establish any safe forward base there. This island will haunt my curiosity forever. What manner of sorcery is this? What lurks in the deepest part of these tombs? Oh, how I wish to know. You ready to check out? Place your items in that red cloth on the counter. As I grow older and see instability and uncertainty foment all around yet, I've decided to put to paper some of my adventures, keep a journal of my thoughts and observations from a life of travel around the world. I've been living on this island for some years now, far from the hustle and bustle of the mainland. How the night sky never gets old. Stars twinkle gently. Oran drifts silently by in all its splendour. The azure star guides the way for sailors all over Biet. What makes her burn so bright? The guild posting to Eridan was never my desire to begin, as I've always felt more comfortable at sea, living a life of adventure. But as the years have passed and my body fails me through age, I've found peace operating my own little patch of land here. Lifestyle reduction from my barony, perhaps. But nonetheless, I found a life of tranquility here, while I can still be of some service in semi-retirement as a broker of information and goods. Operating on the edge of the storm is enough to keep the mainsails away, which is perfect for those who require discretion. Meanwhile, those who are foolhardy enough to try and penetrate the storm end up as flotsam for stocking the shelves. I had a perfect view of a shipwreck just this morning, right after dawn. From the wreckage that washed ashore, I could tell it was a sloop sailing from Cartier, almost certainly heading there. The crew must have foolishly sailed through the night and by sunrise found themselves much too close to the storm to avert course. I've witnessed grander expeditions to Algae Tower, and every fleet ends up as kindling the moment it hits that storm's boundary. I can only assume then that this sloop wandering into the storm was accidental, if not suicidal. The flotsam was slim pickings, however. No wares, no manifest, skeleton crew. Indeed, the ship was too small to be considered a trading vessel. Messengers then? The sailors had no distinguishing marks, save for one man, who bared the tattooed marking of an eye on his wrist. Is this the infamous eye that the locals have heard in fear? What business would they have in Cartier either way?
Yesterday's little lightning display was embarrassing for us all. If you are going to try to use sorcery, perhaps read a book first, you idiots. I was peeling charred fingers off the floor all night. Here is how to make lightning the safe way. Consume your shards. Concentrate on the tip of your fingers until it feels like your palm is being brushed by nettles. Point your hand up, not at your face. I can't believe this needs to be said. If you smell burning, stop immediately, unless counting on your fingers is not a big deal to you. Lastly, and I really should not have to repeat this, do not increase shard usage before you fully master its effects. He who shall remain nameless had a chain lightning mishap that took out several huts in the process last year. We all know who I am talking about.
Sovereign Seas Guild New Purchase Policy. By decree from our leader, Master of the Southern and Northern Seas, Windweaver, Ramian Yandiru. A new shard price policy shall be effective starting today. The minimum purchase quantity for crystal shards is abolished, but any purchase under 5 shards will be now raised to 20 coin per shard. 5 to 10 shards purchase, 10 coin. 10 to 100 shards, 5 coin. Push for larger quantities, lads. The buyer has your money, so take it and don't take no for an answer. For selling larger quantities, consult directly with the local guild captain for a tailored quote. Note: crystal cores are not for sale anymore. Anyone found reselling crystal cores will face the justice of the Sovereign Seas. Core owned must be transferred to the guild immediately for a compensation. New shard regulation. The rule of finder is not valid anymore, following a series of abuses. Any shard that is found, bought or mined must be turned into the guild in exchange for generous compensation. Any shard vein discovered must be reported to the guild in exchange for a generous compensation. Failing to follow these regulations will lead to mass heading and flogging recruitment. The 2 guild members found guilty of stealing shards from Ramian Yandiru have been hung and displayed on the approach to Greystone. The guild is now seeking replacements. Contact your nearest captain for more information. All loyal guild members will be compensated generously.
Parian, heed this warning, for the next time I will not be so patient. Your ranks swell with slithering snakes who siphon shards from our family. The stock numbers do not lie. You are a captain, so I hold you personally responsible to fix this. I want you to find these disloyal thieves and feed them to the rats. Resolve this problem, or the next shipment that is light will end with you being fed to the rats instead.
Fellow masters of the southern seas, free storm tamers, wind listeners. Hello mates, you should all have received this identical letter, sealed by the crest of the four southern seas. This is an urgent matter that requires all our attentions. I received a very concerning correspondence from our leader, master of the southern and northern seas, Windweaver Rami and Endeavour. I can't hide this anymore, lads. He's losing his mind. If you sail through Erden, you'll have no doubt seen the extremely heightened levels of military activity. The Queen is hell-bent on hunting down outlaws and shard peddlers right now, so to engage in such activities at this time is downright madness. To create an enemy of Erden is to invite destruction of both our guild and us individually. I've tried repeatedly to appeal to Ramian as the young man I knew growing up in Santara, but this is not the Ramian I knew. He's paranoid, agitated, hollowed. I'm starting to suspect that Ramian himself may be using shards. I've been a captain of the guild since its inception. You all know my devotion and loyalty, but I must speak up as I've seen what shards do to people. I've witnessed an Erden doctor on his deathbed, entirely corrupted by shards. I've seen the wretches known as the Eye, barely human by now, crawling across the lands, desperate in search of their obsession. By the gods, are we to ignore that even the whole nation of Arakta has fallen under the black spell? This is not our guild, lads. I call for common sense. What does your gut and conscience say? With the assurance to hear back from the seas, Zakarian Cravano, guild captain.
Alright, thanks again for watching, and as always, it was a huge honor.